Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. We are still waiting for at least one board member to meet quorum tonight. But once we have that fifth board member, we will get started. Valerie, you can unmute and say whatever you'd like.
Okay, just saying that I'm present for the meeting, even though I'm by Zoom.
Yep, perfect. We've got you.
Okay, I'll mute.
Thank you. We have a quorum, so we will get started shortly. If you are in chambers and would like to make public comment, please fill out a public comment form and return it to me.
Oh, sir. Good. Good. How are you? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Can we start with the roll call, please?
Gabriel Maya,
Here.
Valerie Tilson,
Present.
Zachary Bolton, absent at this time. Anthony Dispenziri,
Here.
Jürgen Hohn,
Here.
Sarah Horseman,
Here.
Marie Rodriguez,
Here.
Ed Park, absent at this time. Pablo Nava Duran, absent at this time. Hold on one second. I think we've got someone in Zoom. All right, Ed, I've promoted you to a panelist. Can you confirm your attendance? Ed, can you hear us? If you can, just unmute your mic and confirm you are here.
Yes, this is Ed Park. I'm present.
Thank you, Ed. All right, we have a quorum of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Very good. Let's go ahead and move on to public comment.
Our first item today is public comment. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to most matters both on and off the NAB agenda. The NABs may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name and you will be afforded 3 minutes. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. All right, we have board member Dispenziri. Whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Anthony Dispenziri. I know I had made comments at the last meeting about sort of local ongoing safety issues in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, there hasn't really been a whole lot of progress on that issue whatsoever. In fact, all of the submitted items that I had requested for city revision were pretty much summarily denied. And they basically said the requirements for making some of these changes require something on the order of like for a four-way stop sign, 300 cars an hour, which is like, multiple cars a minute through these intersections, which if you look at all of the new developments we approved, they all have a whole bunch of four-way stop signs and nowhere near that amount of traffic volume. And so it seems to me like the newer developers can get what they want and have a safer neighborhood. But if your neighborhood is old enough, if it's 100 years or older, then they abide by completely different standards. And, if the developer asks for it in the beginning, then you get what you want. But I guess or whatever the city, I don't know what the requirements are for inputting traffic stuff, but I do know that everything was basically summarily denied. In fact, there was an accident at the exact intersection. I had requested a four-way stop sign where two little girls were in a car with their au pair and her mother, got hit by a motorcycle because they ran the stop sign and the other car didn't have the four-way stop that I was requesting. And if there were four-way stop signs down the neighborhood so that it was a safe and vehicular traffic safe neighborhood, then that wouldn't have happened. But of course, since it's a highway through there, so we harbored, 4 people from out of town until their parents arrived, where they were terrified and got in an accident because, again, like, it's just not safe enough for pedestrians and vehicular traffic in that area, unfortunately. And so it's just frustrating to see. I'm hopeful, that we'll continue to try to push for a safer neighborhood, but unfortunately, that's been the result so far. I sent pictures to the city folks who denied it of the accident that occurred, and also to Councilmember Martinez. And I'm just hoping that we can keep the pressure on it and have some positive. We need a safer, more walkable neighborhood and more safer for vehicular traffic as well. And unfortunately, the requirements that are being applied, I don't know if the city can do something about it, or what I know this isn't necessarily a NAB item per se in this forum, in this meeting, but I just think it's way too unsafe and there's too much evidence to the contrary. The city will look at that and say, probably the guy ran the stop sign, there's nothing that can be done. But if he had stopped all the way along the line, or if there was a four-way stop, they wouldn't have gotten injured. And so I'm just asking for more support to make it a safer place, and appreciate you guys listening to my ongoing concerns. I will probably continue to talk about this for a while. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Anthony. Happy to connect you with the liaison to investigate this a little bit further. With that, I don't have any other public comment. Is there anyone in chambers who would like to make comment under this item or on Zoom? All right, seeing none, we will move on from public comment.
Very well. Let's move on to approval of agenda for September 2nd, 2025. May I please get a motion from my members?
Maria Rodriguez, for the record, I would move that we approve the agenda for today for September 2nd of 2025.
Anthony Dispensary, for the record, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. So let's move on to approval of minutes from the August 5th, 2025 Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting. Can I get a motion from my members to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes, Anthony Dispensary, for the
Your-
record.
Jorgen Hohen, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's continue with council liaison report.
I don't have Councilmember Martinez online. If we'd like to revisit this near the end of the meeting, we can see if he's available then.
Very good. Let's move on to staff liaison report.
Hi, everyone. Callie Shy, Agenda Coordinator for the record. I wanted to pull everyone's attention to our new board and commissions page online, which is super fun. So if you go to Google and you type City of Reno Boards and Commissions, or you go to reno.gov, hover over the governments tab and click on boards and commissions. You'll be taken to the new boards and commissions page on the meeting portal. It's super handy. You have all the commissions here on the left-hand side. And a lot of information there. So for this board, you've got the full profile with working links. We've got a members tab, which has all of the members of the board. You could even click on them. So my contact is here, my phone number is there. So that's super handy for the public and for yourself to speak with your other board members. There's an option here to apply if there are any vacancies on the board. And then there's also a tab for the meetings. So this is something really exciting to have everything in one place. So take a look there and see what you can find. In addition, there's going to be a board member training on Monday, September 15th at 5:30 p.m. right here in council chambers. It will also be on Zoom, so that's a great opportunity to get brushed up with open meeting law and other things pertinent to the boards and commissions. So yeah, that's all for me.
And about that?
Yeah.
Anthony Dispensary for the record. So are the minutes also posted there?
They will be once
'Cause
they're
I
approved.
saw there was a meeting tab there.
Here we go. Pull this over, make sure that's up. So once the minutes are approved, so you'll see for this, obviously for this meeting, you just approved August 5th. So once this meeting is over, we've done all the post-meeting stuff, you'll see them here.
Okay.
But yeah, so like you can see right here, if you can see where my thing is
Yeah.
covering, you'll be able to see the minutes there as well. You could click on the HTML agenda from there. It'll take you to exactly what
Okay.
you see with the Zoom link and all that good stuff.
And then just out of curiosity, are the public comments also included in the minutes?
If they are added beforehand, so any public comment received today will get scanned in and you'll see it linked on the HTML agenda. So kind of in the post-meeting process, you'll see them linked there. Does that make sense? Okay, yep. Anything else?
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I just wanted to thank City of Reno for updating this. I had been asking for that for some time. And I noticed that earlier, and I can't tell you how excited I was to see the updates and the current members on all the boards. So thanks so much for that.
Yeah, it's super exciting for us as well.
And it's very user-friendly.
Yeah.
Very
I
user-friendly.
think so too. All right.
Very well, let's move on. Do we want to come back with the A5 for the council liaison report?
I still do not have Councilmember Martinez online. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Martinez. I missed you there.
Give us the inside scoop.
Looks like Valerie has her hand raised, but I can go.
I think she just left it up. Valerie, if you want to lower your hand at any time, feel free to do so. There
Okay,
you go.
cool. Awesome. Well, good evening. Thank you all for being here. As you can see, we have a new member online, Ms. Park, who joined us for the first time. So happy to have some new members on. Pablo was also appointed during our last city council meeting and Marie is back. So happy to have you all back and continuing to serve in your capacity. Thank you for that. The only update, I guess a couple of things. We did just approve funding for the dog park at Wilkinson Park. So that should be coming here pretty soon. I appreciate member Honey for being willing to look at bringing some lighting into that park and making sure that there is some adequate safety provided for users of the park. So appreciate that. Are you here for ADUs? No, okay, so during the next couple of meetings, we will talk about ADUs. So if you have any suggestions on that ordinance, I think it's coming next Wednesday. So feel free to either reach out or provide public comment. Happy to read your comments on that. Were some suggestions from the council that got updated into the ordinance language. So feel free to provide any comments there that you may see fit or any changes that you think might be necessary on that. And happy to read those and have a conversation with you all about that. I think the biggest change that I noted was the lot size. They dropped it from 9,000 square feet to 5,000. So that allows some of those neighborhoods within Ward 3 that were out of the possibility of having an ADU in the first draft that staff created into this new one that's being introduced. So really appreciative of staff taking that into consideration, especially because it would have cut a lot of Ward 3, which is the folks that have been asking for the opportunity to be able to build an ADU in their parcel if they wanted to. And so those were two of the items that I had for you all, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you all have any questions for me. But I think those are kind of the bigger things that we saw in the last month are coming forward. Yeah, wow, you're
No,
easy
nothing.
today.
Think we're,
Leave me off the hook today, huh?
the Labor Day weekend was pretty long, I guess.
So do I have to say Jürgen Hohen question?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Hey, where can we see the ADU rules again? And does it involve expanding the driveway? It's like, like an extra car parking?
I think there has to be one dedicated spot for the ADU. But I don't, the packet will come out, I believe, either Thursday or Friday of this week. So you'll be able to see that, and it'll be under the ordinance introduction, which I think is section E. Don't quote me on that. I still am not too familiar with the agenda off the top of my head right now to tell you the exact location, but it's under that ordinance introduction. So this will be the first time the council sort of sees it and provides any updates, and then it'll be ordinance adoption. So there's still 2 meetings until we adopt the full ordinance and put it into effect after that.
Anthony Dispensary, one question. I just wanted to mention Stewart Park again. I know I mentioned it last time, and I didn't know if there was some sort of future process for that or how that would eventually get improved.
Yeah, no, still looking at that. I know Stewart Park, I know we had talked about the basketball court and how it's really not usable at all. And looking at resurfacing that, I think staff is putting on the final touches at Mayor Loma Park, and that looks pretty good. Pickleball courts are up and they have sort of the half fence, so people can get those going. So hopefully we'll start working on that and making sure that we get some of those upgrades, because I think the shelter and the playground and the asphalt on the basketball court definitely needs some upgrades at Stewart Park for sure. And it's such a nice park. The grass area is awesome right there. So definitely it's on the radar for sure. We'll go working on that one. Yeah, thank you. Sweet. Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Miguel Martinez. Very good. Let's move on to development project review. Under B1, childcare ordinance.
Grace Macadam, Senior Management Analyst for the record. I know we're not agendized to talk about ADUs, but just you can check out all the information on our website. And you can email me. I can help kind of provide you to that or lead you to that area of our website. Happy to answer any questions offline to those as well. But tonight I'm here to talk about childcare facilities. So again, Grace Macadam, Senior Management Analyst. I am with the Development Services Department, specifically in planning. So first, to provide some background and just kind of set the stage for where we're at, why childcare is an issue. 72% of Nevadans live in a childcare desert. It just, there's a definition of that, but ultimately, I think more in the North Valleys, we see that there's a further distance for parents to drive to get to childcare. And that's kind of what goes into that definition of a childcare desert. Nevada experienced a 55% decline in childcare from 2018 to 2024. A lot of that was due to those COVID years. It was really difficult for childcare providers to stay open during that time. And then Nevada is the 8th least affordable state for infant care. Those rurals kind of come into play at that point too, but definitely something that we need to try to make better, especially for our working families. So on July 25th, council initiated a text amendment to try to remove barriers. I'll reiterate this a lot throughout this presentation, but our scope and our authority with childcare is very, very limited. Licensing happens at the state level. County Health Department does inspections. So there's not a ton we can do as far as incentivizing them. And so when, council asked us to look at what we could do, ultimately it came down to removing barriers that might exist already in our code. Currently in Reno Municipal Code, we have kind of 3 versions or 3 iterations of childcare. We have in-home childcare, that's anywhere from 5 to 12 children. workplace childcare. So that's if you think of a large provider like IGT or Patagonia, they kind of sometimes will provide childcare to their employees. And then we have a childcare center, which is anything above and beyond those last two. So those are those larger blue kangaroos that you might think of. So when we talk about barriers to providers, we looked at those three uses. We said in-home childcare requires a minor conditional use permit in all zoning districts today. Workplace childcare also requires that minor conditional use permit. And then a childcare center requires a conditional use permit in all residential zones. And then all of those kind of have some additional standards that they also have to meet. So what does that mean to a childcare provider coming into it? It's definitely, you know, it's not nothing. It's not the most expensive thing they'll have to pay for, but it adds cost, time. And then the biggest thing we heard is risk, that they had a hard time investing all of that money, knowing that they might not get their childcare, you know, license signed off on. And so we just kind of wanted to capture what that means for a provider when they come in and apply for one. And so this draft ordinance, it's on our website. We removed the MUP or minor conditional use requirement for workplace and in-home, but we in turn added development standards. So we looked at some of the past minor conditional use permits that we did, and some of the big impacts we saw were hours of outdoor play. So we added a condition or, you know, a standard in our zoning code that restricts the hours of outdoor play. We also added a standard for circulation, sometimes pick up and drop off. Anyone who might have kids knows that dropping your kid off at daycare, picking them up can be really impactful, especially to some of those neighbors. And we're a little insulated from those in-home just because the maximum is 12 kids per the state. And so you can't have a large childcare center at that in those residential areas. And then for a childcare center, we reduced it from a CUP or conditional use permit to a minor conditional use permit. And then we modified some of those development standards as well. So it still has to go through that public review. We still send out notices. I think that they probably should still go through a public review if they're in those residential areas, but we wanted to make sure that we also kind of looked at those development standards to capture some of those impacts in our code. So that's kind of big picture what we're looking to do right now. We're looking to get some public outreach. And like I said, our scope is really very limited. And so we want to, one, reach out to childcare providers and see what are your hurdles? What are you having trouble or experiences? But then also reach out to the public. What would your concern be if somebody moved in next door to you? And is there a way we can just put that into our zoning code? So we're in the public outreach stage right now. We plan to go to Planning Commission after this. So in the next couple months, we're scheduled a public Planning Commission meeting. City Council, and then adoption. And if you are on our community development, which I think all of the NAB members are, email list, then you'll just kind of keep getting new updates as we move along this process. So that's my presentation, but I'm available for any questions.
This is Sarah Horseman for the record. Thank you for the presentation. And I appreciate that the council has asked. I know the city has very limited compared to county and state, but I think that reducing the fees is a good barrier, especially if there's still many stringent standards when it comes to county licensing and state. Has there been consideration for, I mean, I don't know how much revenue this produced for the city with removing those. Has there been considerations about maintaining the fee for the center-based care?
So, and it will just be removed or reduced from that conditional use permit to the minor conditional use permit fee. So a minor reduction in fee for them. But yes. And this, like I said, this is all draft. So right now we're looking to get feedback. If you think these are terrible ideas, now's the time to let us know.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I just love that this is being addressed. Where I work, we have a lot of people who do shift work, and childcare is such a difficulty for people who work graveyard, swing, weekends. Have any of the restrictions in opening childcare or hours of operation, is there any restrictions to any of the in-home or workplace or childcare centers? Because it does impact a lot of workers here. We're a 24-hour city.
Definitely. And that was something we discussed when we looked at best practices. One of the standards we saw a lot was hours of outdoor play from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we did add that into our code. We thought that was fair. Even if you are doing shift work, the kids don't necessarily need to be playing outside past 7 p.m. If it's a unique circumstance, they can, we did add in that they could apply for a minor conditional use permit to say, okay, this is our extenuating circumstance. And it's not always one size fits all, so they could apply for that. And we can look at that on a case by case basis.
Jorgen Hohen, what is your contact email?
It's my last name, first initial, and Callie can send it to you.
Okay, great, thanks.
Marie Rodriguez for the record again. The in-home childcare, I think I remember seeing it's for children, 5 to 12 children in the home. Say there's a person who's simply like babysitting for a coworker, they don't actually have operational, they watch maybe some other kids 2 or 3 hours a day for maybe a couple of days just to fill in the gaps. Say they did have maybe a couple of children at home and then some in school, and they did have more than maybe 5 kids, but they're not really running a business or babysitting. Where can they find out rules to make sure they're compliant and not crossing a boundary?
It's very much a gray area. As I've been kind of pulling the thread at this to figure out what we should be doing, and then just other regulations and restrictions that maybe different entities like the county or the state might have, I've realized that it's very, very complicated to open a childcare center and to know what your regulations are. And so through this process, we've been working with the health department or I guess Northern Nevada Public Health now, and the state to consolidate some of our restrictions into a pamphlet. So if you did want to look at what in-home childcare means and how to open up an in-home childcare center, or see if you even meet the definition of in-home childcare, you can go to one area and read all of those regulations and know what to do moving forward. What we're seeing is there's a lot of unlicensed and unregulated childcare centers, especially because under 5 kids does go unregulated. And so I think that the state and county have been looking at ways to encourage people to get licensed, get their place inspected. But it's just very difficult because especially to your point, maybe you're doing a nanny share and it starts off with 2 kids and then slowly works its way up, or you're helping out a friend and it slowly builds up to 5 or 6 kids. We want to make it as easy as possible so that these places are safe and they're being run well. I don't know if that answers your question.
Jorgen Hohen, question. So have you done a study or an estimate of the underserved number of children? Like what's the total population and what was the collapse in the childcare capacity and how much is needed?
There is some data out there. The difficult thing is it's either statewide or countywide. As far as that gap, I can look at that. I can look into that for you.
No, because it's, like you said, it's an affordability. New parents, where I work, two people they wish to have a family.
Definitely.
Right.
So there's plenty of data. The Children's Cabinet actually does a lot of research in this. And so we did do a lot of our research, reaching out to them and kind of seeing what they have that's Reno specific. But I think that the gap as far as like kind of what's specifically needed is difficult. And their kind of justification for that was there's a lot of people, especially maybe disproportionately affected communities or low income communities, might be sending their kids to childcare facilities that aren't licensed. And so that's hard to capture for us.
Anthony Dispensary for the record. Yeah, I was looking, if it's a situation like she had described where it's a couple of people watching their kids and then the cost to get licensed is like over $4,000 and that's a city cost. And then beyond that, there might be state and or county costs as well. I can't imagine anybody who is doing a favor for somebody's ever going to do that. And so
No.
like I don't know if there's a way to, I'm sure you're looking at ways to modify it and to make it reasonable and affordable so that it can be more
Yep.
I guess legal, if you will.
Yep,
but-
and so that's why we hope by removing this cost, it encourages more people to come in and get licensed. But like I said, we have a very limited scope. We're hoping maybe other entities follow suit, maybe add incentives where they can. But this is what we can do with our limited authority. And if you think of things that you're worried about or other thoughts, feel free to send me an email or give me a call, and I'm happy to talk through it.
Jürgen Hohen, last question. Is there a possibility of maybe having a set up childcare payback loan program? Like maybe 2K or 3K, as long as they do all the permitting to encourage certain areas to get childcare?
As far as from my understanding, that's out of our scope as well. I think that would maybe be more within the state scope because they handle the actual licensing of the childcare. So that's what makes it difficult. We are working with our business license department too, to see what they can do to help us with this.
This is Sarah Horseman for the record. More of a comment for the NAB members is Children's Advocacy Alliance of Nevada. They just released their kids count data from 2023 to 2024. It's statewide. There is some county specific data that we might be able to help deduce. But it really does highlight, a multiple different areas like number of children in poverty, access to healthcare, housing, number of teen parents or teen live births, any of that. So that might be helpful. I know that there's also Reno specific data that we can get, but that is also helpful for Nevada because it does break down by county and by urban area.
Anthony Dispenzor, one more question. So are you saying that the fees that are listed for the MUP at the top would go to zero then? And then the bottom one would go to the cost of what the MUP was?
Yes, so what we've proposed is to remove the minor conditional use permit requirement. Again, that's currently a staff level review, but you would receive a notice in the mail. So we've proposed to remove that requirement and put in code maybe some of the things we would have conditioned in an MUP. And then we've proposed to reduce the conditional use permit to a minor conditional use permit. And so what that would ultimately do for the fees is remove the fees for the in-home and workplace because you're no longer going through that MUP process. And then it would reduce the fee for a CUP marginally.
Valerie Tilson is online with her hand raised. Valerie, if you'd like to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Valerie Tilson for the record. I was curious of how many applications are sent in for the childcare and what is the turn down ratio? Do you know that by chance?
Yes, so I went back and looked at the last 5 years, and I think we had 3 applications. We have not, workplace childcare is a relatively new use we added with our new code. And we've never denied one. So 100% success rate. But we just get these so infrequently, and I can't help but wonder if that's because we've made it cost prohibitive. So it's difficult to tell if we do kind of remove these barriers, if we will get a large influx of them coming in or not.
Jürgen Hohen, what was the average hours spent on on an application? Was it 20, 40? Because it's not just 4K, it's 20 hours, 40 hours of.
Definitely staff time. I can say that these minor conditional use permits, they're always case by case because sometimes you might get one that gets, a lot of pushback, or maybe the home is on a unique lot and there's unique circumstances. Generally with the ones that I did find, they were minor, very, very minor permits. They probably took staff anywhere from 5 to 10 hours to review.
Thank you.
Valerie, you have your hand raised?
Valerie Tilson for the record. I was wondering, do you know about also when the last childcare was approved?
When the last childcare facility was approved?
Yes.
Well,
I just wonder how long it's been since we've actually had another childcare that's been opened.
sure. For in-home, it was within the last 2 years, I think. Childcare center, we had one submitted but actually withdrawn within the last year. I would also like to point out sometimes we get churches with childcare centers, which those get a little confusing. Oftentimes churches are exempt from our restrictions. So you might see those pop up at churches and we might not have been reviewing them just because
Okay,
of the
thank
way churches laid out.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. That just brought something to mind. What about like childcare centers in schools? Like I know TMCC has a childcare center.
Mhm.
What would that fall under? And I understand that some of the high schools have also introduced programs of caring for children during the school day.
Mhm.
And what would those fall under? Would that fall under you or is it separate?
Again, a gray area. So the University of Nevada has a childcare center, but because they are state-run, we don't always look at their building permits or business licenses. And so it's not consistent with what they fall under. I think their current childcare center we didn't review, but the state's supposed to kind of inspect those. As far as anything that a high school would do, that would fall under our jurisdiction, depending where it's located. If it's in the city of Reno, it would fall under our jurisdiction.
Any other questions online?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No more questions. Thank you, Valerie Tilson on the record. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Valerie. All righty, so um moving on. Let's
Sure.
review.
Double check and see if there's any public comment for that item.
Go for it.
Do I have anyone in chambers who would like to make public comment under that item? Or on Zoom? All right, we're good.
Okay. Having no public comment, let's move on to board, commission, committee member reports and announcements. Do we have any announcements from the board?
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I just wanted to remind everybody about some things that are coming up with the city of Reno, or in the area. Upcoming this weekend is, our Northern Nevada Pride event on September the 6th. And the following weekend on Saturday, September 13th is the Nevada Humanities Literary Crawl, which is kind of special to me since I do belong to the Sierra Arts literary community. And we're part of the crawl this year for the first time. We got to join in with Nevada Humanities. And we're going to have a panel of some local authors as part of this event at the Sierra Arts Foundation on downtown from 2:15 to 3:15. And I'll be moderating a panel of local authors. So I hope you guys will join in with this literary crawl and maybe stop by and say hi. Following weekend after that, September's busy, is the Fiesta on Wells. Remind everybody of that. We're all familiar with that event. 10 years this year. It'll be a 10-year anniversary. And also happening in September is it'll finally be fall. I am looking forward to next week when we're supposed to have highs in the 70s. I'm looking forward to fall. And City of Reno has already announced the dates for the Biggest Little Fall Refresh Dump Days. So if you want to start cleaning up your garage with the new cooler weather, we have a lot of locations around the city where you can take some items and dump for free, including some things that would normally cost extra to take to waste management. And that's all.
Give remind for the record, I also wanted to emphasize the event for Fiesta on Wells. After all, it is their 10th year anniversary and You know, they've been a pretty great partner for the community for the last 10 years, and going out there and showing the support uh, will be greatly appreciated. Um, anybody else has any announcements for the board or anything?
Anthony Dispensary, just question, what's the date on that? Did you have it?
No. Yeah, that sounds right. 21st. Okay. Any future agenda items that we should discuss?
Anthony Dispensary for the record. I know I mentioned in public comment some of the safety issues around the neighborhood. I don't know if there was some way to have some sort of a safety focused topic around pedestrian and transportation safety type stuff in the neighborhood. But, or if bringing somebody from the city, traffic or other, you know, the folks who sort of review that. I don't know who the right people are to talk to, but I'd like to bring a little bit more focus to that area because it's clearly an ongoing issue. And, I'd like to have a little, you know, understand the process for, because like just submitting stuff to Reno Direct probably isn't the best way to manage it, but that's the only way I knew how. But some focus on that area and trying to make improvements, and that would be something that I know a lot of people I've talked to in my neighborhood would like. So
Jurgen Hohen, to your point, Anthony. And that is maybe we can get a statistics person in for traffic flows, even though the freeway constructions, I'm sure, has choked up some of our side streets. Maybe, I'm sure we have some stats on that and have a good presentation so we can better make suggestions.
I don't know if this would be something for the city planner's office or RTC, but maybe we could find out how they do studies for these kinds of intersections and maybe have them do a presentation. So we could find maybe who the right department would be and just request a presentation at one of our future meetings.
Happy to look into this for the board. We'll take a look.
Everybody, for the record, I did also want to, I don't know where we left off with this, or is it gonna be something that's gonna come back? I don't think we had a RPD update in a while, nor fire.
Yeah.
We did? Oh,
I don't think they're monthly. I think they're quarterly, aren't they? They're quarterly, and I think we might be due for one soon, but we did have one in the last couple of months.
okay.
Just for the board's clarification, we won't be having any RPD presentations. There are some staffing constraints. And it's come down that we will not have presentations from RPD in the future. So happy to, if you want to direct questions to me, please do, and we'll reach out and try to get you some information, but RPD won't be presenting at any NAB meetings in the near future.
Marie Rodriguez for the record, and just for information, if you go to the Reno PD website, they do have a page where you can see what the crime trends are. So that information is available to the public, so we can get that information.
Anthony Dispensary for the record, one more. This is semi-related to that. Just sort of the general process on code enforcement, and what I've learned in sort of going through and submitting things recently is that code enforcement really doesn't come out and do anything unless there's a submitted claim for it, and each item requires its own specific submission. So if, for example, like I had mentioned last time, somebody goes and puts up "We Buy Houses" signs all over the neighborhood, you have to literally go and submit each specific sign, and then code enforcement takes action on those individual items. And it feels to me like some kind of a focus on code enforcement and maybe having a more rational process to sort of, you know, this is a yard sale versus this is a commercial business that's splattering the neighborhood with, you know, commercial signs in an illegal way, and having different fines or, you know, response to those kinds of circumstances than currently it seems like that are allowed by the city code. I don't know if that's a topic for this or if that's a city, having somebody from code enforcement sort of explain exactly what the rules are and, you know, so that we clearly understand how to interact with them and potentially how to push for better rules than we have right now. Because I've talked to some of the code enforcement officials who sort of feel like because of the fact that they have to go case by case based on what's submitted, that, you know, they're not really going around and actively citing anybody for obvious code enforcement issues. And I think there have been, it wasn't just myself, but other people in the public had spoken about that in the past. I don't know if that's a separate topic or not, but some focus on that aspect I think would be beneficial.
Sure, we can look into a staff presentation from code enforcement.
Very well. Is there any other public comment?
I do have a public comment card from Beth Dory.
Beth Dory for the record, and I'm repeating what we did last week. First of all, I'll show you this. A lot of our city streets are too narrow to allow parking on both sides. If you drive down Court Street, that is against the International Fire Code. Many of our old city streets in Ward 3 and Ward 2 should be striped on one side to allow for fire trucks. And there has just been the International Fire Code was just updated and that hasn't changed. So that's life safety issue. And then to your point, Anthony, let's see, I circled some of it. The city's reducing parking requirements, but then turns a blind eye when folks park on their front yard dirt, which is a violation. The city's policy for code violations is complaint-based, and that should change. You should educate your well-paid city staff as to what codes to look for. And, you know, there's no law against Miguel filing a complaint or any of you. If you see a complaint, complain, because it really does affect our property values and safety. After one warning, fine the violators, just as you would for someone who speeds or has a parking violation. This could generate income for the city, which is in $5 million or $25 million in debt. One way to, you know, increase that. And there again, this is for Miguel because he didn't see this. This is in Ward 3. I own property here. And all of these are code violations. And when people are parking like that, that impacts a visual. So pedestrians and children on bikes, it's hard to navigate these streets. This is lovely. How would you like to try to sell a house next to that? That's in Ward 3. Another great one. That all reduces our property value. There we go. Beautiful. There's another one. These are my 2 rentals. You know, if I can keep this up and I own quite a few rentals, other people can do that. And then the last thing, which I think I'm running out of time for the ADU, I talked to Shay Backus, who was the sponsor for AB 396. And she said it was not her intention that CCNRs be excluded from the ADU. Am I out of time?
30 seconds.
Okay. So if the city is ignoring old CCNRs, because a lot of these old CCNRs prohibit extra units, that's going to set people up for lawsuits. This house has CCNRs from 1929 that prohibit ADUs. This one's on Bates Avenue, and that prohibits where you think that you would be able to allow ADUs in the backyard. many of these old CCNRs do not allow it
Thank you, Beth.
up in Northgate. Okay, thank you.
I do not have any additional public comment. We do not have any attendees in Zoom with their hand raised.
Very well. Then let's go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Can I get a motion from the board?
Valerie, do you have your
Valerie
hand?
Tilson, yeah, I have a question. I know I'm off on my cycles here. Valerie Tilson for the record. There was talk about record keeping in regards to summaries into the NAB to be either done by staff or a person on the NAB meeting. Do we have any further info whether we need to take notes and submit it for a public?
Sure. There'll be kind of more robust information during the board member training on Monday, September 15th. So I would look out for that. Like I said, we'll be in person or online. You'll get kind of a full overview of how things have changed with the resolution and what has stayed the same, if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Anthony Dispenzario for the record, motion to adjourn.
Jorgen Hohen, second.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.